So what they can do is they come to the wrong prognosis. What that means is they come to the wrong answer. They think, you know what, this is cancer. And so if you think about it now, they could start to give him cancer medicine. They was preparing him for cancer surgery, but the reality is nothing would have got better because that wasn't the problem. Now the professionals, these are the doctors, these are the professionals. They're looking at his symptoms. They're looking at what's going on in his life, and they're thinking, they're adding it up, and they're saying, you know what? We want to fix this problem. We think this is the cause of the problem, and so we're going to start to give you some medicine, but it's actually not fixing the problem. See, there are many people that they go through life, and I've been a pastor a little while, 10 years. And I've been in the same church for 10 years. So I've seen people come in as teenagers, and I've seen them get saved. I've seen them get jobs. I've seen them get organized, and I've seen them date, get married, and now some of them have 3 kids. I've seen these people go through all of these stages in their life. And what I realize is, many times as a pastor, I'm trying to fix problems. And sometimes I'm trying to fix marriage problems. And so I'm trying to deal with the marriage. It's what's wrong with this marriage? Something is up with this marriage. So I'm trying to fix marriage problems. And then God is telling me, listen, you're trying to fix the marriage problem, but there's another problem. The marriage is just what is playing out. This is just the symptoms. There are people that come to churches and they have friendship problems. I know it doesn't happen here, but just pretend that you know another church that maybe they have friendship problems. But the reality is, there are people that they go from friendship to relationship, and they've always got beef. You know, there were some sisters in our church that had some beef. And one would sit here, one would sit there, and then they're in the same ministry. And they're good sisters. Listen, they're good sisters. They love God, you know. They're good people. And I started to think about what is the problem here? What's going on here? And after a little bit of investigation, I started to find out that many times it was insecurities. Many times in some people, it's even how they was treated when they were young. And now it's playing out. There are people that have church problems. They come to church. They've always got some sort of problem. Maybe with the leadership. Maybe with ministry. Maybe with the fellowship. Maybe with the pastor. And they've got these problems. And they think it's the church. And so what they do is they leave that church. They go to another church. And they realize they're going to have the same problems. And these are the very unfortunate individuals that keep hopping from one place to another place to another place. And the reality, many times, I know there are legitimate reasons for leaving certain churches. They're not churches. They just call themselves churches. If they're not preaching Christ and the truth of the Bible, then listen, it's time to leave. But I'm not talking about that. I'm addressing where it's a good place, but the reality is they keep moving. I had a lady that came from another church, and even that church, she didn't get saved in that church, and she came to our church. We loved her. We tried to help her. And then after a while, she just said, look, Pastor, I'm moving on. I'm going somewhere else. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't surprised. And I said to her, look, you know, be very careful in this. You know, we love you. Anytime you want to come back, she never calls us no problems. And so if she wants to leave, that's her choice. I'm not going to badmouth her or say things about her. That's her choice. I said, but we love you. But I said, really, please, prayerfully, be careful about this. Because this, you may have to look deeper within yourself. That you keep going from one place to another place to another place. See, Jesus says in our text, Jesus says, he echoes what you see in the text, and Jesus says it in the Gospel of John. He speaks about, I've come here to heal the brokenhearted. This is Old Testament. This was God's original plan, to heal the brokenhearted. When the Bible speaks about the heart, it speaks about the center of you. Yes. The center of you. God is saying, I want to fix the center of you, the inner you. There's things on the inside. I want to fix those things. Many of you don't really know me. I preach this sermon in my church, but you know, in my church, there's like a running joke. People know that I'm not very emotional, and you know, I'm just not an emotional type of guy. That's just the way I am, and so most guys are not emotional. I'm probably a little bit, you know. When we got married, my wife called me I-husband. You know, there's my I-robot, I-husband. You're like a robot. And so when I'd sit in church, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm listening. And so she'd be like, what do you think? Boy, I'm listening. And so I'd be, you know, so when I, you know, when they would say, now greet people, I'd go and shake her hand. And so she would be like, I'm your wife, give me a hug. And so she trained me, she helped me in these things. So I was very stiff. And so in our church, there's a running joke. Like, so I said, people know, Pastor, you're not very, not very emotional like that. You don't have emotional displays and things, all of these type of things. And so I was talking to my wife before we went to Scotland, because we went there for about 4 days. And we had to get a plane, and we packed, and the view's nice there. I said to my wife, are you excited about this? And she was like, yeah, I'm so excited. And if you know Frances, my wife, she's an excitable person. She's always happy and she's excitable. And so we're like chalk and cheese. We're like the opposites. And so I was like, why am I never excited like this? No, seriously, I started to, I'm 45 this year. So when you get to mine, you start to contemplate a little bit more about yourself. You're not so insecure, like, why am I like that? Yeah, that is like that. And so she said, I don't know, you're like that. So I went to visit my mom. And so when I was with my mom, I said, Mom, can I ask you a question? I said, have I always been like this? Have I always been like this type of guy? And my mom started to speak to me. We had a deep conversation. And she said, Courtney, the thing is, when you was born, so I grew up in a single parent home. My mom is Irish, my dad is Jamaican. And so really from the age of about 4, my dad told my wife, he told my mom, I'm going on holiday, and basically he never came back. And so my mom said, from that time, something in you changed. She said, something in you changed. Now my mom was an alcoholic when she had me. And so she'd be drunk all the time. She said she's saved now, praise God. But at the time, she said she was very harsh with me, not affectionate. There was never any affirmation. There was never like, I love you and hugging. Now, my mom got saved when I was about 10. My mom had my sister just after she got saved. I've seen my mom with my sister. My mom is like very care. So I thought my mom was like that with me. But my mom was telling me, no, I wasn't like that. I would come home drunk, pass out. You would see this. And she says, as you was getting 5, 6, 7, she said, I started to see you became a darker child. You became more inward. There were things happening with you. My wife was in the room. She's looking at this. She's like, yes, he's like that. So she starts to get involved in it. And so I'm just feeling like a what's going on with these? And so my wife says, yeah, I've never seen him cry. Never. 15 years I've known this man. And so she's saying this. And I'm like, And my mom said to my wife, she said, even when he was a kid, he wouldn't cry. Like you could beat him. He would look at you and just get angry and stare you down. He said, but he would not show emotion until he wasn't looking, and then he would show emotion. And she said, my mom made this connection. She said, because of the way he was brought up, this is why he's a bit like this now. Now, I'm not making excuses, but I'm giving you reasons. See, the Bible says in Proverbs 22 verse 6, train up a child in the way it should go, and then when he is old, he will not depart from it. We always say that in a good way, and I believe it in a good way. But can I tell you, it can also work in a bad way. I read some articles where it says, research has confirmed that abuse in childhood increases the likelihood in adulthood of this child having problems, ranging from depression, alcohol, sexual deviances, and multiple personalities. It says virtually all of those who suffer from multiple personalities have a history of being severely abused. This disorder is, it goes on, it starts to talk more in detail. But basically those 2 articles, what they said is that when someone has gone through things in their childhood, it's guaranteed to play out in adulthood many times. Not always, we understand there are different individuals, but they said when they look into the history of people that have this multiple personality, this negative strain in them, they said all of them have been abused. See, maybe you've grown up in an emotional, harsh environment, very cold. Maybe you've had people that have had physical abuse. I realized in our church we would sit down in fellowship and we would joke about how we used to get beat. when we were young. And so we'd be like, and so we're trying to outdo one another. So someone would start be like, yeah, one time my mom just slapped me because I wouldn't stop. And then someone would be like, yeah, my mom slapped me with a ruler. And someone said, yeah, my mom slapped me with a broom. Someone said, yeah, my mom got a knife. And so people are just taking it, my mom with a gun. And so people are just taking it to the next level. And it's like, yeah, so it's like a kudos. Like, yeah, I got more beats than you. And I remember saying, I got beat like this, and I remember saying at the end of it, I needed that, man, because I was just crazy. Do you know that's how abused people think? Abused people think they deserve the abuse. Now, I believe in discipline. I believe there is a place and a time for smacking. But can I tell you, that is done in a controlled environment. Meaning it's not out of anger, it's out of love. It's to teach that child. That means you explain to the child and you show the child, listen, I'm totally in control of my emotions right now, and we're going to do this. Let's go upstairs and just have some fun time. And then you deal with business, and then you talk, listen, I love you, I care for you, and blah, 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 whatever it is. But it's not like, 1 minute you're just and you just lash out. That's not discipline, that's abuse. That's abuse. And there are countless people that have undergone physical abuse, even on a worse scale than what was discipline. And there are people that have undergone sexual abuse. Have you noticed over the last few years how many cases are coming to light of sexual abuse? This thing is running rife. It's like the elephant in the room. Do you know that in a room like this, of this size of people, there probably could be 10 to 5 people, or 5 to 10 people that have encountered some type of sexual abuse. That's how devastating and rife this thing is running through life. See, the problems, remember what we said, you swallow something as a child and we put it behind us. But it starts to come out and it's causing problems. And it can cause problems in work. It can cause problems in education. It can cause problems in marriage. I would almost say, I guarantee it causes problems in marriage. There's 3 types of people that I see how they manifest this abuse. One is how they react to this abuse. One is what I call the walking wounded. These are people that shrink away from life. You can almost see it in their posture. They feel like they're unworthy. They're not attractive. They're nobody. They're nothing. And sometimes these are people, even from school, you can see it. I remember being in school and a certain boy or certain people were always being bullied. Always being bullied. It's like everybody bullied them. It's like they attracted it because they're like wounded animals. Have you ever seen a wildlife program where you see a lion going after the wildebeest, and there's one wildebeest that's got one leg wounded? The lion goes after that one. They don't go after the healthy ones. This is why there are some women that every man they attract is a predator. You wonder why? Like you've had the same boyfriend 10 times with a different face. All of them are no good waste men.
Come on.
All of them. But you think even if you roll the dice, you should be able to at least 50% good, 50% bad. Now, what's the chances of all 10 of them are waste men? Like those odds are not normal. The reason why is because that woman feels, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth a good guy. The way he treats me, this is the only guy I can get. So I'll have this. And predators, wicked men, wolves, see that. They sense this weakness, this woman I can dominate. And they're attracted to that. That's why you realize that they're not attracted. If you see a strong woman and then a weak woman and they got friends, and the strong woman sees, this is your boyfriend. And then the boyfriend's like, no, let's come away from her. Because he senses, listen, I can't get away over here. That's why he wants to separate you from your family many times. Pull you away. These things follow people into church. How many people have talent and ministry and could do so much? I remember when I was in the body and people used to say to me, I think you're called. I'd be like, no, I'm not called. They would have sermons and they would like, if you go men's D's, Pastor Mitchell would come into town, men's D's, stand up if you're called. I never once answered one of those. Never once. I just said, hey, that's not for me. Where'd they go? That's how I felt. That's because I was like, I'm just happy here to be in the body and all of those things. Now, sometimes it's not for you. But I realize sometimes it's, could I do that? The next one, not the walking wounded, the next one is the masquerade. This is the person who covers their wounds. Many times they look good and they act confident, but nobody really knows who they are. And I would say this is where most people that have gone through these things, this is where they reside. They become a chameleon. And what that means is they can change to suit the crowd. They change to suit the crowd. These are the people that 1 minute they're into hip hop, like yo. Next minute they're into, I don't know what other people are into, this. And they keep going, they keep searching for an identity. And can I tell you, the world keeps giving you an identity. This is where people look, they look on Instagram to get their identity. They look on Instagram, that's how I'm going to have my wedding. That's how I'm going to have my baby shower. That's how I'm going to have my this. That's how I'm going to have that. You're looking for an identity. And the world understands that we're so insecure, it keeps pumping out more identities. Women's magazines are just about giving identity many times to insecure people.
Amen.
That do not feel in themselves they're beautiful unless I'm shaped like her, unless I'm the color of her, unless my hair is like her. What about you? What about God making you fearfully and wonderfully made? What about God making you with an individual fingerprint on every single person? If God wanted clones, he would have made clones. He likes individuality. There's not one tree or flower or bird or animal or mountain that is exactly the same as another. God is showing us, I love variety. But because we have no understanding in ourselves, when we look at ourselves, we think, I'm nothing. So if I look like her, if I wear their name on me, then I'm somebody. And the world is always seeking to give us and say, yeah, now you're somebody. You got my name on you. You got Gucci on you. Now you're somebody. Can I tell you, you're the same person. These things can follow people into church. It can follow people into ministry. It can follow people into the pulpit. If I have more people, I'm better. Can I tell you, whether you have one person or 1,001, you're still just you. You're still just you. Last person I want to speak about, I spoke about the walking wounded. I spoke about the people that wear a mask, masquerade. I want to speak about, this one is more dangerous. Not as common, but more dangerous. Is those that have frozen hearts. And these are people that hurt other people because they're still hurting. These are people that become very controlling, very domineering. In the corporate world, they may call it driven, but really, something's wrong here. They measure everything about outward success, but they don't care about the people that they've just run over. See, this is where the abuse becomes the abuser. They've come up either in a harsh environment, or there's been physical abuse, or sexual abuse, or other things. I read an article and it said in America, it said they looked at 15 adolescents that were condemned for murders. And they said 13 of them had been victims of extreme physical and sexual abuse. It says similarly, a study of 9 women imprisoned for fatal child abuse. These are women that abused children and they killed them. They looked at these women and they said all of them had experienced severe abuse themselves. See, these are people that have a lack of feeling. They've gone numb. They've gone numb. I remember counseling a couple, and wife, husband, and the wife is crying, and as she starts to cry, I start to feel a bit emotional. You know, it's not my wife, but when I see a woman cry, I feel something. And I looked at the husband, and the husband was just staring at me like nothing has changed. And I was like, something's not right here. Something's not right here. You've become numb to this. There's something amiss. You know, a few years ago, the pastor will probably remember, I can't remember if you guys was out already, but at the football tournament, there was a brother from one of our churches, and he severely broke his leg. I think he was from the Harold Church. I think his name was Matthew. And so he broke his leg. But how he broke his leg was, if you imagine you've got your thigh, your knee, then your shin. From the shin, I think it broke forward or back. It was terrible. I remember him being on the floor. It's terrible, terrible. We're praying, we're feeling it. And I remember after he got rushed to hospital and after the weekend, I remember calling him up, calling his wife, to see how they were doing. And I spoke to him and he said, pray, because they can fix the muscle, they can fix the bone, but if there's nerve damage, that's very hard for them to fix. They actually, if you do certain nerve damage, you can't fix it. If you've bruised it or damaged it, but it's still connected. But when the nerves are broken, there's nothing man can do. And what he said to me, the reason why that was so serious is because those nerves are what send feeling up to your brain. So when you put your foot on the floor, you feel something solid. So your brain says your foot's on the floor. See, if his nerve is broken, he gets no feeling. So it feels like even if his foot's on the floor, it feels exactly like it's floating in the air. Imagine you're walking and you don't know whether your foot is on the floor or not. Imagine how difficult that is. He's lost feeling. Can I say, there are people, because of their abuse, because of something that's gone on in the past, they've lost feeling. No longer can you be touched by things in life. No longer can you feel what's going on. If we look in our culture today, people are crying and saying things about knife culture and why young men can kill other young men. Can I tell you, we can deal with the symptoms all we want, but we need to understand what is the root of the problem. And many times these men have lost feeling. Just look at the music that they listen to. I'll kill this person. I don't care. Come around here. We'll do this to you. We'll do that to you. So normal music shouldn't be about that. That's not normal. That's not right. Never in all of history have we seen this type of thing. But now it's become culture because there are so many wounded people in our world today. And now they've built their own culture around their wounds. I'm here to tell you, listen, you do not have to live wounded. You do not have to live wounded. Jesus gives us good news and he says, listen, I've come to heal that. Where man cannot repair that nerve, Jesus can.
Amen.
See, there are things that can't dissolve. This was a plastic toy. It would have stayed in that man to the day he dies. See, what could not be dissolved had to be removed. Today, God wants to remove some things. I want to pray for people, but before we do, let me close with this. See, in our text, he says, I want to heal the brokenhearted, binding up their wounds. And Jesus is telling us the same today. What God is telling us, I want to get to the center of the problem, not the symptom. I want to get to the heart of the matter, not the symptom. You know, so many times we're dealing with symptoms. Can I tell you, everybody can see your symptom, but only God really knows your problem. Many people can see your symptom. Sometimes your symptom is so prevalent, we start to label you as your symptom. Oh, she's just like that. Oh, he's just like that. You know what we're doing? We've identified a symptom. We're all about the symptom. Jesus says, I've come to heal the broken heart. Jesus is like, here's your symptom. Jesus is like, no, I don't care about the symptom. I'm coming to the heart of the matter. I don't want to. Jesus is like, listen, I'm here to. He didn't say I'm here to fix up. No. Step aside, symptom. I'm not going to judge you based upon the symptom. Everybody's judging you. Everybody's labeled you. People have given up on you because we've seen the symptom for so long. And we've tried to fix the symptom and we couldn't fix it. So you can't be fixed. You're broken forever. Forget it. Just live with your symptom. Limp on in life. Jesus says, no, you don't have to limp on in life. Step aside, symptom. I've come to the heart of the matter. See, this is why Jesus is so important. He says this, I want to bind up their wounds. What he says is, I'm going to pay all my attention to the place where you're wounded. This is God focusing on where you are the weakest, the ugliest, the things that you hide, the wound. You know, so many times in church, we've learned to cover our wounds. That's what much of churches, you know, not here, I know, not here, of course, but that's how much of Christianity is. And we're actually happy. I started to think about it. As a pastor, I'm actually happy if you hide your wounds. Come to church and hide it. Don't bother me with it. Hide it. And so, yeah, this just looks good. Yeah, praise God. Shake your hand. Off you go. I'm happy, man. You came, I counted you. Yeah, church is growing. Praise God. But that's not Christianity. That's churchianity. What God wants is He wants the wounds to be bound. He wants to bind up the wounds. He wants to get to the ugliest part of you. He wants to get to the ugliest part of you. See, some of you here, and let me say this in balance. The pastors, we're here to help you. But can I say there's a limit to what we can do? We love you, but there's a limit to what we can do. Respect your pastor, honor your pastor, love your pastor, help his wife, because that will go well with you if you do that. But there's a limit. Really, as pastors, we're arrows pointing to Jesus. We're arrows pointing to Jesus. And so, Jesus says, listen, I want to get to the wound. I want to bind up the wound. When people have babies, they come to church and all the women go around and some of the men as well, and they're like, oh, it's your baby, yeah, baby, love it, oh. And then people love to hold you. How many know that people love holding babies? Some people just love holding babies, grabbing babies. Sometimes it's easy, man. Just, oh, please. And so they're holding babies and all of this stuff. And then, but a few people are really like, oh, let me change your baby's nappy. Now, some people will do that. Change the baby's nappy. But I was around a couple in our church. They recently had a baby. Well, I say recent, maybe, actually it's not recent, probably about a year, but in my head it's recent. And so he was around there, and the baby couldn't breathe. So what's happening? The baby can't breathe. Not necessarily serious, but the nose is blocked up. So I was like, well, what are you going to do? Just, some of you know what they're going to do. Yeah. Some of you know. Some of you know what they're going to do, man. And some of you ladies say, you're like, oh my days. Especially if you're single, ladies, oh my days. And so when the nose gets blocked up, you got to unblock it. And God bless you with an unblocker. I'm not going to say no more than that. Yeah. So she gets down. I'm like, I love you, man. I'm just going to start to go. And I was thinking about this, that many times people want to hold your baby, but I've never seen somebody that would want to do that with your baby. Jesus says, listen, I don't just want to hold you and parade you. I want to fix you. Yes. I want to get to your wounds. I want to get to your wounds. I want to get to the weakest, ugliest, infected part of you. That's what Jesus wants. See, Jesus became broken so we could become fixed. Jesus doesn't want you walking around broken anymore. He's already paid for it. When He died on the cross, He took all the abuse and all of the insecurity and all of what you'd gone through, and He took it on the cross. And when you got saved, what He says now is, let me give you my healing. I want you to be healed. Pastor Jamil was telling me a story about a man who's known for unpicking locks, and he could unpick every lock. Within a few minutes, he could unpick a lock. They locked him in a room somewhere, and he's trying to pick this lock, and he's trying to turn it. He can't turn it. And then half an hour goes by, an hour goes by, 2 hours go by. People are like, he's never been in a room like this long. And he can't do it. He gives up. He just sits down, slumps himself down, leans on the door, and the door opens. Because it was always locked. It was always unlocked. It was already unlocked. It's already unlocked. Let me tell you this now. Jesus has already paid the price. Many people are living in a cage that Jesus has already unlocked. When He died on the cross, He unlocked it. Your healing is there. A guy goes to a doctor's and he asks the doctor a question, and he says, this might be a silly question to you, doctor. He says, when I've got a headache, I take the pill and the painkiller, and it goes to my head and it heals the headache. He says, when I've got a backache, I take the same pill and it goes to my back. He says, how does the pill know to go to my head and go to my back? A doctor looks at him like, he says, the pill doesn't know. He says, the pill just goes to your whole body. Any area which is infected or needs help, the pill automatically. Can I tell you, the same cross and faith and Jesus that saves you
Yes.
is the same cross and Jesus that heals you.
Amen.
You already have it.
Yes.
But maybe you say, you know what? I need Jesus to heal my heart. There's things in my heart, I need this. I want every head bowed, every eye closed. Every head bowed, every eye closed. No one moving around very quickly. We want to make some time for prayer.